Hello everyone, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I will be giving you some tips on writing task 2 today, as well as working through an example that was requested by one of our sponsors. This is a sponsor chat only class. Of course, everybody's welcome to view and join and learn. This is one of the perks of being a sponsor. Is you get to make these requests as well. You get access to all of our 6 full exams that we use in these live lessons. Hi, Baljit. Happy to see you in class. I thought you might be watching the football pregame. So, hi, Aisha. Nice to have you join as a sponsor. Hi, Manisha. I'm doing great. Thank you. Hi, Jeffrey. I'm doing well. I hope all of you are doing well also. Thanks for asking, Baljit. There you go, Manisha. You got a new logo. You're into the yellow or gold color now as a long-time sponsor, which is great. I really appreciate that. Cool. Okay, so again, it's an IELTS Task 2 writing example, July 14th. Our materials, as usual, are coming out of our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Make sure to check us out there. If you haven't already, lots of resources for you there. We upload these live class video recordings there as well. And then go to gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. It's generalieltshelp.com. Of course, we have an app for academic IELTS. Look for Academic IELTS Help in your Google Play Store. We don't have it for Apple yet, but we're working on it. Download the app. There's lots of goodies there for you. Also, some good materials. Hi, Mohammed. Nice to see you in class as well. I'm doing good. Thank you. All right. So, again, here's just a peek at our schedule. Today, we're doing a sponsor chat only with a Task 2 example. Tomorrow, we'll do a reading section from IELTS. And then Monday, Tuesday, as usual, no classes. And then back on the 18th with some listening practice. And then, of course, without further ado, this is the task 2 that we're looking at today. You should spend 40 minutes on this task. I always remind students, make sure you do spend 40 minutes on this task. It's a really good idea to time yourself at home in your writings to know how much is 40 minutes of your writing ability and how much is 20 minutes of your writing ability for task 1. You should always begin with task 1. Students sometimes do ask me, hey, should I start maybe with task 2 because it's worth more, it's bigger, it's more important? Is that a good idea? And I say no. You should start exactly for that reason with task 1 because task 1 is worth less. So it's good to warm up your writing skills with task 1. And then by the time you get to task 2, you're a little bit more fluid in your writing. Your brain and your hand are cooperating better. So there's a better chance of writing well for task 2. So always do task 1 first and then task 2. Just make sure you have the timing down. Okay, and then you'll sometimes see this included in the question. It will say, present a written argument or case to an educated reader with no specialist knowledge of the following topic. So we have this here. The question is, when designing a building, the most important factor is intended use of the building rather than its outward appearance. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So that's this type of question that we're looking at. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Just give me a moment here, girls and guys, while I get that camera back online. There's definitely a very clear way to write for this type of essay. Of course, it's the same as all other task 2s. It is persuasive and written in first-person voice in almost all cases. Okay. Just give me one moment to get us back on track. All right. There we go. Okay, so here we go. First, as usual, we want to paraphrase the question to collect our vocabulary. for the writing. We want to check our understanding, and we want to start thinking about the answer, right? So let's do that now, girls and guys. Let's paraphrase this question here. So in your own words, try to state this in another way. Can you guys do that? Hi, Terrell, Manisha. Can you try to paraphrase this question, please? So what's another way to say buildings? What's another way to say intended use? What's another way to say outward appearance? So do your best. Okay, I'll give you a couple of seconds to paraphrase here. And then, of course, I'll pick out the best one, or I'll give my own as well. And yes, I will be showing you a couple of new techniques for Task 2 as well, or a couple of new strategies that could be useful for some of you. Hi, Aisha. Nice to see you in class. Okay, so again, instead of saying when designing a building, you could say that in a different way as well. So something like this, okay? When creating a structure, the key aspect should be its application instead of its aesthetic. Okay? So that would be one paraphrase. Let's see what you guys came up with. All right, Amanjot says, while architecting a structure, the main objective should be its utility rather than its appearance. Amanjot, that's very good, okay? Nice of you to think of that word architecture. Nice of you to think of the word utility. Objective is another great word. So excellent, excellent paraphrasing there. Some really nice high-level synonyms there, Amanjot. Good job. Jeffrey says, when designing a construction, it's better to focus on the function instead of its looks. Absolutely, Jeffrey. Another good one. So I'm very happy to see that clearly you're practicing these tips that I'm giving you at home, and you're coming up with some really, really good paraphrasing. That is the key, girls and guys. If you can paraphrase effectively like what you're doing, I guarantee you will get a nice high IELTS band score. Manisha says, while plotting a building structure, a planned approach is needed to be considerate to make it a convenient living space for the future. Manisha, I think you're kind of going off track with that. I probably wouldn't paraphrase it that way. It's a little bit awkward. It's a little bit off. So I recommend trying that again. When you restructure your premises, the most significant aspect is considering the internal benefit rather than external looks. Mohammed, that's okay. Avoid the you and the your. So when creating a structure or a premises, the most significant aspect is its internal benefit rather than external looks. That would be good, okay, without the you or the your. All right, good job. So great. And then to what extent do you agree or disagree? So here you can completely agree, completely disagree, somewhat disagree. We can get into that in a moment, but first we need to think critically about this question. Now, here's something that I haven't shown you before, but this is a good skill to have. So here the topic, okay? I'm going to move through this a little bit more swiftly so we can get into some other goodies. So here the topic is a building, right? A building or a structure. That's our topic. Now, when you've identified the correct topic, then the next thing that you want to do, which is good practice at home, is go into the vocabulary resource. So here you see what I've written here, vocabulary resource. Somebody's doing a little bit of construction here. I hope they stop soon. Okay, so fitting for the question though. So vocabulary resource is collecting words that will be useful in your essay, okay? So what kind of words, and this is after you've identified the topic. So by vocabulary resource, I mean collect words that will be useful for the essay based on the topic. And of course, you can think of the controlling idea as well. Okay, so based on this topic of building, what would be some good vocabulary to think of even before you start writing? And it's worth coming up with a set of 5 to 10 words that you can include in your essay before you start writing, rather than trying to come up with it while you're writing. Because if you come up with the words before you begin to write, that allows you to write more fluid or more fluently, so that you're not stopping in the middle of your sentence to try to think of the word, okay? So girls and guys, Jeffrey, Mohammed, Manisha, Baljit, Amanjot, what are some words that come to mind when you're thinking of this topic of buildings and this controlling idea of function versus appearance? So just give me some words. And I think it was, who was it? Was it Amanjot that already gave us one, which is architecture? Okay, architecture is a great one. Architecture is the actual science of designing buildings. So that would be great. Baljit says, hey, utility. Yeah, utility would be a good one as well. Give me some more. Convenient, safe living, working conditions. I'm not sure. Try to be more specific, Amanjot, to the actual topic here. So keep with the topic and the controlling idea. So keep thinking of buildings. There you go, Mohammed. That's a good one. Engineering. Form. Function. Okay. Those are good ones. Okay. Outer display, Manisha, actually has a different meaning. Okay. A display is like a store display, so it's not clear what you're referring to if you say outer display. An outer display would be like a storefront. If you walk by a shoe store and you see those shoes, that would be more appropriate for outer display. What's another way to say attractive? What's the science or philosophy of beauty? That's right, Amanjot. There you go. It's aesthetic. Yeah. And all you girls and guys who are watching right now, even if you're not one of our sponsors and you're not in here, make sure you're writing down these words for study. These are great pieces of vocabulary here. So aesthetic means the beauty of something. So aesthetic value is good. Jeffrey, interior, exterior. Okay. Good. Okay. So all right, I'll stop there, but you get the idea. You collect these words, and you can do this in the IELTS. So as a first step, you can paraphrase the question, make sure you understand it. Hopefully you'll get some vocabulary already there, and then quickly jot down a list of 5 to 10 key words that deal with the topic, the controlling idea, so that you can use them as you're writing. So jot those down in your notes, okay? Everybody understand the logic behind doing this when you're sitting in the IELTS, so why you want to take that 30 seconds to write down these words? Is that clear what the utility of this strategy is, rather than trying to think of these words while you're writing? I just want to make sure that that's clear for you. Okay? Because here now it's just plug them in, right? As you're going along. Oh yeah, architecture. Oh yeah, engineering, right? So that can really ramp up your band score a little bit. Great, looks like you're all good on that. So I got a lot of yeses there, and that's reassuring. Okay, so here we're looking at the structure. To what extent do you agree or disagree, right? And then, of course, it's the same as with every other task too. You have 4 paragraphs. So you have the introduction, you have body paragraph 1, you have body paragraph 2, and the conclusion. And for this one, all you have to do is, for body paragraph 1, discuss the weaker point, okay? And then for body paragraph 2, the stronger point. So you can approach these agree or disagree, or sorry, to what extent do you agree or disagree, several different ways, okay? There's more than one way to do this kind of an essay, or more than one way to approach it, especially depending on the question. But you definitely always want to put your weaker point first and your stronger point second. So you could say, I completely disagree with this statement for 2 reasons. And then the weaker point would be 1, the stronger point would be 2. Or you could say, I completely agree with this statement, and then put the weaker for 2 reasons, and then put the weaker point first, and then the stronger point second. Or you could say, I somewhat agree with this statement and mostly disagree, and then put the weaker point, the agree first, and the disagree second. I hope that's clear, okay? Before you absolutely agree, Jeffrey, don't forget your critical thinking, okay? Don't be too hasty to make your decision, all right? And you'll see why, Jeffrey, in a minute. You don't want to be quick. Baljit, the weaker and stronger point is not clear yet. Don't worry about it. As I start going through the example, I think it will become clear, okay? All right, so what are we talking about? A building. What is a building? It's a structure used for work or living, right? Why? To give us shelter, right? How? Foundation, 4 walls, and a roof. Okay, that's the most simple way to go through the what, why, how of a building. Now, you can see I did that quite fast, but of course it comes with practice, so you definitely want to make sure that you're practicing this at home. So, topic, building, what is it? It's a structure used for work or living. Why? To give us shelter in those working or living situations in the most basic sense of it. How? By having a foundation, having 4 walls and a roof. Just give me a moment. Hopefully my next door person will stop that drilling here in a second. Okay, so controlling idea is where it gets more interesting here. So the controlling idea is function versus aesthetic, right? That's basically what we're saying here, is function versus aesthetic. Okay, now I want to really bring back this key strategy I was teaching in the last couple of Task 2 classes, where I was saying you could think about this from big to small, or you could think about this from small to big, okay? Now, if you're thinking about this question from big to small, it's quite easy to jump to that conclusion, Jeffrey, that you just did, where you said, oh, I definitely think that function should be more important than its appearance. And then you could come up with 1 or 2 reasons. And there's nothing wrong with that, Jeffrey. You could do it that way, okay? So, and Taral, if you have the same idea, yeah, you could do it that way. But it might be easier to do it a little bit differently. And in order for you to recognize that, you might want to think small to big, okay? So instead of trying to think about a building in general and thinking about its utility in general, try to think of a specific building, okay? Think of a specific building. And hint, thinking of an apartment building or a house might not be the best in this situation. Okay, I think you could write a lot stronger of an essay if you're not thinking of a house or an apartment, okay? Because those are very general, broad. It'd be better to think of something more specific, okay? So Amanjot says a commercial building. All right, I would go with something even a little bit more different. And this is where I always encourage you to think about what's happening in your life, what's happening in the world. Visualize the now, the current situation. Okay, Baljit, now you're coming onto the same page as me much, much more. You're saying local gym. I bet you can do even one better than that. What is a major event that's happening in the world today? I bet you guys will get it very quickly when I ask you that. What is a major world event happening right now? Baljit, I'll be very surprised if you don't get it. Or Amanjot. Mm-hmm. Jeffrey jumping ahead of the race, right? Yeah. So there you guys all go. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Now you're rocking it, right? So all of you are realizing, hey, wait a second. Football's on right now. FIFA World Cup. We're into the finals now, right? And not too long from now, we will have England playing Belgium for third and fourth place. And boom, right? You're using that visualization. You're thinking outside of your box. And you're able to come up with some very powerful ideas. So now Terrell and Amanjot and Jeffrey, they're jumping right ahead, saying stadium. Okay, good. So that is a good way to think about it. Okay, so a stadium. Okay, a football stadium, for example, if you want to be more specific. Now, most of us can imagine a football stadium. Okay, so now let's think about the function versus the appearance. Okay, so is it important for a football stadium to have good function? Of course, I know your answer, yes. So how is it important, right? Absolutely, of course. How is it important? So give me some of that. How? So the yes is the obvious part. How is the function important? What kind of a function would a football stadium serve? Okay, so what does it need to provide? Well-designed entrance and exit, comfortable seating, enough seating, right? So exits, entrances, right? So this is the how. Okay. So exits, entrances, good seating, enough seating. Quality field. Or if you're using British English, then quality pitch. Okay. Lighting. And we could go into more and more details. Yeah, Jeffrey, funny but true. Even toilets, right? You need to have well-designed washroom facilities in a stadium. Okay, good. So that's clear. Okay, so that's strengthening that idea that function definitely is very important for a building. If you have a stadium that is poorly designed and doesn't serve those functions of safety, right, Amanjot? Clean facilities for restrooms, good seating, enough seating, a good football pitch, then that's just going to make the event much less enjoyable and much less profitable for those companies. Okay, now here's where we get into an interesting question, of course, because we're thinking from small to big, okay? And believe me, when you practice this logic, girls and guys, you will become very quick at coming up with this. And this will really not just help with your IELTS band score, but also help with your university scores and your future work. So, is the aesthetic of a stadium important? Now again, think of real life, okay? You don't have to reinvent the wheel, okay? That's a very true proverb or idiom that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just think of real world situations. So think of the stadium that was built in China for the Olympics. They call it the Nest. Think about the stadiums that were built in Russia for FIFA. So does the aesthetic or does the appearance of the stadium matter? Is it important? Right? Remember, to what extent, right? So Baljit says, not sure. Yes. All right. Yeah, I would say that it mostly does. You can see that countries and cities and provinces, when they build stadiums, they don't just build a big box, usually. They usually do pay attention to what it looks like, okay? So yes, it does to some extent. Okay, now here's the interesting question or the follow-up question, why? And this is where your critical thinking really allows you to have much more powerful essays, right? So why is it important? Because the looks will fascinate people. It could draw bigger crowds. So Sure, so it could affect its popularity. Um, why else? Is there any other? Hi, Arcana. Nice to see you pop in. Good, good, good timing. We're just about to get going here. Um, Baljeet, I agree with you, but just let's not jump there. Remember, IELTS essay task 2 is only 250 words. We could probably write 1,000 words already on this information, but we don't need to, okay? So Jeffrey says, if it's ugly, people will make fun of it. Sure, what else happens? So now you're thinking in the right way, Jeffrey. You're thinking of, well, what if a building's ugly? Okay, so if suddenly in my neighborhood somebody decided to build a new apartment and it looks completely out of place and really ugly, then what's the problem? And I think you'll get it now. So I think you'll realize now where I'm going with this looks thing. So we can even sidetrack here a little bit and go for that apartment building. So imagine that somebody pops up an ugly apartment building on your block. Is that going to bother people? Absolutely, right? Because buildings, and this is what I want you to realize, is that buildings also reflect our attitude in society, our culture, our history, right? So different neighborhoods in different parts of the world have different structures. And maybe the function of the outside look, so the outward appearance of the building, is not important for the people inside, but it's very important for the people outside. And this is where we're literally thinking outside the box, right? So it could affect popularity, and it affects the overall impact on society, okay, on culture. So here is where I want to go back, and I don't feel like I'm picking on you with this, Jeffrey, but I want to go back. Do you still think that it's absolutely just the inside function that we need to pay attention to and the outside not so much? Now, that's a rhetorical question. I'm guessing you're thinking, yeah, maybe the outside does matter somewhat because it also serves a function, okay? That's the hidden truth here, is that the outside of a building serves a function, not for the people inside of it at the moment, but for the people outside of it, right? Because there's people both inside and outside a building. So the outside serves a function. Now, if you're a good thinker and you're a quick thinker and you've realized all of this, then now you can write a really good thesis, okay? So here, let's jump back to the question real quick. Let's not get lost, and I suggest doing this in the IELTS as well. Once you've taken that 3-4 minutes to quickly go through your critical thinking, your visualization, your paraphrasing, your lexical resource, which is a synonym for collecting your vocabulary. Now you're ready to, hey, come up with a thesis, okay? Arcana, I'm not sure what your question is. Can you just write it up again and I'll have a peek at that? Meanwhile, please, girls and guys, sponsors, come up with a thesis. Now that we've gone through this critical thinking, we went from small to big, right? Coming up with that football stadium. Come up with a good thesis for this task 2 essay, okay? So let's see what you can do with this. Again, the question is, when designing a building, the most important factor is intended use of the building rather than its outward appearance. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, so I see the thumbs up, Arcana. I still don't see your question, though. Let me see if I can scroll down a little bit here. Maybe I can. No, I don't see it. So Arcana, just write it up there again. Okay, I don't. It must have flew by. Okay, meanwhile, girls and guys, thesis. Remember, a great thesis will make your essay. A bad thesis will break your essay. Let's see if your thesis agrees with what I'm going to write. I'm really curious if some of you will be on the same kind of page or same point there. Oh, you want to see the question, Arcana. Okay, sorry, miscommunication. I thought you had a question that I missed, but you see the question. For everybody that's watching, the question is also in the stream description. So if you look at the stream description on the channel for this live broadcast, you'll see it there as well. Okay, good, Arcana. Great. So you're back in it. Okay, so still looking for that thesis statement. I'm guessing that you're probably thinking about how to put this together. You don't have to write a very long, complicated sentence. You could just write 2 simple sentences as well. So despite the importance of the basic function of buildings, personally, I disagree with the idea, and effort should be put into the design. That's a good one, Jeffrey. You could go with that one. Let's see what everybody else says before I give my thesis. Let's see what some of our other sponsors figure out for this one. I don't want to. Jeffrey's a good start. I'll give you a little bit of insight, Jeffrey. Mine's going to be a tiny bit different than yours, but you could go with that one. So you could write a very effective essay with that one based on the information that we have here. Let's see what else comes up. I'm sure Baljit and Mohammed are working away right now as well, trying to figure out that thesis statement. And all the people viewing right now who can't chat, I encourage you to try the thesis as well, okay? Just because you're not able to plug it into the chat doesn't mean you can't give this a try. So definitely give it a try. Try to write the thesis statement, okay? All right, Taral says, not completely, but to a certain extent, my credence inclines towards the idea that while constructing buildings, the function of the building should be taken into account rather than its appearance. Yeah, okay, Taral, it's long, it's quite complex. You don't have to be that complex, okay? You can make it more simple, and the ending there's a little awkward. I would rephrase the ending of what you're saying there, Taral, a bit differently, because it sounds like you're saying that the appearance is not important at all. But I think you should take into account that the appearance is somewhat important. Baljit says, I fully disagree with the given statement. As exterior of the building can make a good expression on both the tourists and local people. Yeah, that's okay too, Baljit. I don't think you guys are quite getting, girls and guys, of what I'm thinking of. I'll write down my thesis statement, and then you can tell me what you think about it. Maybe you'll disagree with mine. Okay, so here is my thesis statement. Let's take it all the way down here. So I somewhat agree with the idea, or sorry, I disagree with the idea that a building's appearance is unimportant, and I do support the notion that the building's function is primary during construction or in construction. Okay, so that's my thesis, and I'll explain my logic. So I disagree with the idea that a building's appearance is unimportant, and I do support the notion that the building's function is primary in construction, okay? So basically what I've done here is I'm telling my reader that, hey, look, I'm going to give you a body paragraph that explains why a building's appearance is important, why that should be taken into account. And then I'm going to give you a second body paragraph, which is going to explain that, of course, the function is the most important. Okay? Let's see what Mohammed and Amanjot say. So Mohammed says, in my opinion, I completely agree that designing the external look along with the internal feature while constructing is important because it affects popularity as well as society. Notice those corrections there, Mohammed. Amanjad says, I think both aspects of the building should be taken equally into account rather than concentrating only on one, since both factors are important. Very good, Amanjad. You basically said more or less what I just said, and that's very good. You could go the same direction as I just did here, Amanjad. So good one. Okay. Manisha says, although the property's utility or proper utility of the building is important, I disagree that the given notion to some extent, because outward look is also crucial while constructing. Okay, Manisha, that's good as well. So all you'd want to do is just flip around your body paragraphs, but you could do that. Okay, that works. Aisha says, although there are some valid arguments to the idea of putting too much effort into the outward look, I completely agree that we should give more attention to the function of the building. Aisha, very good. So you've basically done the same thing that I have. So you've built up a thesis where you can write your first body paragraph on the importance of the outward look, and then the second body paragraph on the primary importance of the function. So here, you have your introduction. I'm just going to copy paste that in here. Okay, so let's take that, control copy, and put that into the introduction. So that's our thesis. That gives our guide. Now, I'm going to do today's lesson a little bit differently. And all I'm going to do is give you body 1 and body 2. So here, you can start it off by saying in body 1, I certainly believe that the outward appearance of a building is important to society. And then body 2, my topic sentence would be clearly the most important aspect of any structure is the utility of its intended purpose. Okay, so here, girls and guys, have a look at the introduction. Here we have the thesis. I disagree with the idea that a building's appearance is unimportant, and I do support the notion that a building's function is primary in construction. Let's make that a little bit more clear. Is the primary factor. Okay, it's a little bit better English. And then body 1. I certainly believe that the outward appearance of a building is important to society. So that's my topic sentence for body 1. That's what I go with. And then body 2 is the strongest part of my agreement or disagreement, to what extent. And then here I say clearly the most important aspect of any structure is the utility of its intended purpose. Okay, so you might already know what I'm going to say next. You're inside my head, especially those students who know me well. I'm going to challenge you to finish this essay. So a lot of the task 2s that you've seen me do, I've given you the other elements of each paragraph. So I've given you the background, the hook. Sorry, I should go in the right order. So for the introduction, I've given you the hook, the background, and then the thesis, and I've worked through several body paragraphs with you as well. This time, what I'd like my sponsors to really do is use the information that you see here. So use the thesis and use the 2 topic sentences that I've given you and write this essay at home and then send it to me. And for those people who are viewing this live feed, you can do the same. I will happily give you a score estimate on how you answer this question. Just follow this design, okay? Jeffrey, I definitely agree with you that people would be quite disappointed to see an ugly building on their street. Oh, and one more thing, please. For both body paragraph 1 and 2, I missed an important point here. For both body paragraph 1 and 2, please, please, please don't come up with a different example. So keep the same example. So use football stadium. for the example. Okay, so I want all of you to use football stadium for the example. And if you girls and guys are comfortable with it, what I can do with your essays once you send them to me for the sponsors is I can actually post them in our sponsor comments so you guys can compare each other's essays. So when you send me your essay, tell me if you feel comfortable with me posting your essays for the sponsors, not for everybody, but just for the sponsors. You know each other, a lot of you. So I can post your essays into the sponsor comments section so you can compare your essay to your fellow students and see what they did and how they answered this question. That's why I want all of you to stay with the same example. So for both body paragraph 1 and 2, use football stadium for your example, okay? It gives more cohesion to your work. Is that clear? Thank you, Manisha, for accepting the challenge. No, don't use Jim Baljeet for body paragraph 2. Use football stadium. I want you to use football stadium in both body paragraph 1 and 2 to explain your points, okay? Is that clear, girls and guys? So sponsors who are watching right now, is it clear what I'm asking you to do for this assignment? Aisha, you will just get it. So it's the sponsor comment section is on my end. So I have a special tool that I can select which says show to sponsors only. So you will see it when I do that. If you don't see it, please let me know because it could be something in the software, but you should see it. Okay? All right, it looks like you guys are clear on that. So you don't have to rush, okay? You can take a, try to do it fairly soon, so within the next 24 to 48 hours. And then, yes, on the community board, Manisha, but the sponsor community board. There's a separate community board for sponsors or community chat. You'll see it. You'll see it, okay, when it's posted. If you're not comfortable with me posting your work for the other students, that's okay too. I respect that, so just let me know. Please don't post it. I'm not comfortable with it, and I'll respect that. But definitely the more of you that say, hey, look, show the others what I did, you'll help each other that way, okay? All right. Any questions, girls and guys, before we wrap it up? So any questions about this homework assignment? Of course, this video will be live on the channel, so you can review it. You can go back, look at the question, look at the critical thinking, look at the vocabulary. Definitely try to use the vocabulary that we just collected here. Use the critical thinking, that's wise, okay? Use that vocabulary resource, these list of words, all right? The next sponsor class, Aisha, will be on Thursday. So right now the schedule is usually Wednesday, everybody welcome to chat, Thursday sponsor only, and then Friday everybody welcome, Saturday sponsor only, and then Sunday everybody welcome. So it's 2 sponsor classes each week and 3 everybody welcome classes. Yes, Baljeet, it is definitely coming up on World Cup football time, so I'm sure a lot of you want to get to that as well. Any other questions, sponsors, before we wrap it up? Welcome to the new sponsor, by the way, who just joined at the very beginning there. I didn't see your name come up again, but I hope that you engage the class, absolutely. Okay, tomorrow we're going to do reading. And again, don't forget to go to our websites, aehelp.com, glshelp.com, and new sponsors, definitely send me an email so I can hook you up with the exams that we use in here. Where's your question, Manisha? Okay. Yeah, so Manisha, in the background, should you explain the definition of what a building is and its use? Yes, you should. Yeah. So in the introduction, the background, you should give a very brief idea to your reader about what you mean when you say building. Remember what I said there in the critical thinking, the work and live in, it has some kind of utility, right? With a football stadium, you might want to say play in. So yes, definitely, Manisha, briefly define what a building is, okay? All right, looks like no more questions. Girls and guys, I look forward to those essays. I look forward to seeing how you develop your thoughts and your ideas, how you create that cohesion, use the English language. Taral, Can you send me an email about that request on task 1, please? And then I'll let you know, okay? So send me an email, Taral. Here's my company email. Just send it there. So adrian@aehelp.com. Send me that specific task 1 that you're curious about, and then I'll set that up for one of these sponsor classes. You are very welcome, Manisha. Everybody else, I hope you got some good, fresh information, a little bit of a different approach from this class. Much love to all of you. Thank you so much, sponsors, for supporting us, making this happen for everybody so that we can help you to achieve success on IELTS and reach your dreams and go to schools that you want to go to or travel to countries where you want to live. Keep up the good fight, and I will see you tomorrow with some reading practice. Bye for now. Enjoy the football if you're watching it.